Okay, so today we are going to be talking about how to graph a system of equations to find the solution. Um, Now, we've already covered this, so this should be a lot of a review and not necessarily new information, hopefully, at this point. Um, but we are going to be using a different tool today. So we're going to be using a graphing tool called Geogebra. Now, on this how-to sheet that is posted in the 3A folder, there are two options, and I'm going to go through both of them and how we would use that to graph a system of equations using this GeoGebra tool, which is accessible to all of you on your Chromebooks. You don't have to download anything to use it. It's just a free service on the internet. So I provided the link on that how-to document, but it is geogebra.org/calculator, which if you just go to geogebra.org, let me show you what that looks like. If you just go to geogebra.org, that's fine. You're just going to see this Start Calculator or Classroom Resources. Just click Start Calculator and it will take you to the actual calculator portion of this. So the first way we're going to go about doing this is, I didn't change that. Oh, well, we'll fix that in a minute. We'll fix that now. So the first way we are going to go about solving these is using the tools function on GeoGebra. So as you see, there's this little circle triangle that are intersecting up here. That's the tools function. And so the first way we're going to go about solving equations is using that tools function. And the system of equations that we are going to be solving is, we're going to be solving we'll do number 1 here. So we have y equals x minus 1 and y equals negative x plus 11. So we are going to use those equations to graph this. So our first equation is y equals x minus 1. So if we were to go about solving, or not solving, if we were to go about graphing that, we would use the -1 as the y-intercept. And so we need to graph that. And in order to graph that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select a point. So my first point is going to be on the y-axis at this -1. Now, we need to figure out another point. And I know that my slope is 1, meaning a rise of 1, a run of 1. So I'm just going to put a second point up 1 and to the right 1 of that initial point. Now, typically in a graph, I would say, okay, keep making points using the slope, so it's a little bit easier to make your line. However, using GeoGebra, we don't need to do that. On this left-hand side here, if we scroll all the way down, there's a lines segment, and we can just click this line tool and select 2 points, and it will make a perfectly straight line for us. And as you see, it contains point A, B, C, D, E, F. So what we really only needed to do was we only needed to graph 2 of these points, and it would graph a perfectly accurate line. That is one perk of using a graphing software as opposed to just graphing it on our own. So now I'm going to attempt to zoom out a little bit because our next line is y equals negative x plus 11. So I'm going to go back up to the top here in this basic tools tab on the left-hand side, and I'm going to click points again, and I'm going to attempt to graph the y-intercept of, oh, it's positive 11. Uh-oh, I almost made a mistake. Okay, so I need to graph positive 11, the y-intercept of positive 11. Now, a good point to make here is I clicked back over to this move tool. If you don't click over that move tool when you're trying to move the graph, like if I stayed on this point tool, it's just going to give me a point and I'm going to end up dragging that around. So let's do this real quick. So we've graphed that point. Now I'm going to delete that. So back to the point, I need to graph positive 11, which I believe should be right in here. Let's just double check. So if you click on a point and you go to settings, you can choose to label this, and I'm going to label it with the value, just so I can get that point exactly where I want it, theoretically. Maybe I won't. Maybe it's just going to not allow me to. There it is, 0, 11. Okay, so now I need to go back to my point tool and graph another point, and the slope on this one is -1. So for -1, I need to go right 1, down 1, or down 1, right 1. And like I said before, I could keep graphing these over and over and over, or I can scroll down, click my line tool, use the 2 points that I already have, connect them, and now we have our intersecting lines that we can clearly see intersect at 6, 5, the ordered pair 6, 5. Now, let's just say it was in between and I couldn't really tell exactly where it was. At the top here in this basic tools, I can click on this intersect tool and I can select 2 objects, so like my 2 lines, and it will tell me exactly where they intersect. And I can click on that point using the move tool, click these 3 dots for options, go to settings, and I can change that label to value to make it tell me exactly what that point is and really just simplify the whole process. So that would be how we would graph our first system of equations using tools. We'll go through one more just to really make sure we have it down here. But that is the first way that we can solve a system of equations. So I have my move tool out. I'm going to kind of recenter this, make it a little easier to see. So for our second equation, we're going to use let's just use number 2. So y equals the -x and y equals 2x. So when it says y equals -x, they don't give us a y-intercept there, but they do. They just don't cite it. So they could say y equals a -x plus 0, but that seems silly and not necessary. So they just say y equals -x. So our intercept is going to be at 0, 0 at the origin. So I'm going to graph that. And now my slope is -1 because -x, the 1 is assumed. So we would go down 1, right 1. And our second point would be at 1, -1. I'm going to select my line tool, connect these 2 points, and just like that, I have my first line graphed. Now I'm going to go ahead and graph my second line, which is y equals 2x. Once again, we don't have a y-intercept there, so we know that y-intercept is 0. So my y-intercept is going to be at 0, 0, which we already have a point there. And I'm going to use my slope to find my next point. My slope is 2, so I go up 2, right 1. And I could keep going up 2 and right 1 and graphing that line just like we would on paper. But I'm going to choose to go ahead and use this line tool and connect my 2 points. And as I can see right here, my lines intersect at 0, 0 at the origin, which looking at those equations, we could have known because the y-intercept was the same on both of them. But that's neither here nor there. So once again, we could use this intersect tool if we really wanted to. If we couldn't see exactly where it was, then we would click on the point, click the 3 dots for options, go to settings, click on this show label, and we would switch that to value. Okay. So that is the first option. Now we are going to go into our second option. And honestly, this is I don't want to say the easier option, but this is, in my opinion, the quicker option. So instead of clicking over to tools, we're going to click on this algebra tab, and we are just going to type in our equations. So for this one, we're going to use number 3. y equals negative 3x plus 6, and y equals x minus 2. So my first equation being y equals negative 3x plus 6. I've typed that in, and look at that. It's magically graphed the line for me. Now, my second equation was y equals x minus 2. And just like that, it has already graphed that line for me. Delightful, quick, easy, painless. I'm going to click on the intersect button, even though I can see that that they intersect at 2, 0. So I know that's going to be my solution. But just to be thorough, I'm going to click on that intersect button. I'm going to click point A once it graphs that for me. I'm going to hit the settings. I'm going to go to show label, and I'm going to switch that to value. And I'm going to make Geogebra do all the work for me so I don't even have to think. Okay, so that's how you graph using the algebra function. Now, I'm going to go ahead and do one more like this just to really sell the point home. And this last equation we're going to do number 4. Once again, hint, hint, I can see these are both in slope-intercept form, and the y-intercepts are the same, so I know that's where it's going to intersect. However, we're just doing this to be thorough. So I'm going to graph both my equations. My first one, y equals 3x minus 4, and my second one being y equals negative 3x minus 4. Okay, so then I'm going to click over to Tools, click my intersect button, click on both lines, and it gives me point A. Now, point A is exactly where I thought it was. I'm going to click Settings, click the 3 dots, click Settings, go over to Show Label, tell Geogebra to give me that value because I want 100% on this homework assignment. And it tells me that my solution is at 0, negative 4. So that is how you can use Geogebra to help you graph systems of equations. Let me know if you have any questions. Have a great rest of your day.